So if you've ever tracked macros diligently, you've probably noticed that your macros and calories don't add up right in tracking apps like MyFitnessPal. There's 4 main reasons for this, and I'm going to cover them right now. So if you weren't aware, we get our calories from our macronutrient intake, and these macros are carbs, protein, and fat. 1 gram of protein has 4 calories, 1 gram of carbs has 4 calories, and 1 gram of fat has 9 calories. Now there is technically a 4th macronutrient, that being alcohol, but I'm going to touch more on that later. Now for some of my clients, I have them directly input their macros into a spreadsheet that automatically calculates the calories from those macronutrients. And what they find is the calories on that spreadsheet will never, and I mean never, match what's in whatever tracking app they use. So going over the reasons why this happens, the first is that there's rounding on nutrition labels. Legally, at least in the United States, if a product has more than 50 calories per serving, they can round to 10 calorie increments. And not only can they round, but they don't even have to go to the nearest, they can go up or down. So say for instance, there's 158 calories in a serving, they can claim that as either 160 or 150, and which one do you think they're typically going to choose? Now, if a serving is between 5 and 50 calories, they can round to the nearest 5 calories. And if a serving has less than 5 calories, they can claim it as 0 on the nutrition label. So they have to give the exact macros of it, but they don't have to give the exact calories, which throws off the total equation. Keep in mind too, there can be up to a 25% error inside nutrition labels. So if you're someone who gets caught up in trying to be perfect, this shows you that there's literally no such thing as being perfect, because you never know exactly what you're eating. You shouldn't take this and get frustrated and think, well, what's the point then? The point is you don't want to get caught up in the all or nothing perfectionist mindset, because this is an absolute killer for a lot of people. Now, the second reason for discrepancies are things like fiber, sugar alcohols, and artificial sweeteners that are not counted as calories on the label, but they still have to count the carbs. This can make a huge difference, especially if you're someone who eats a lot of kind of diet foods that use things like net carbs, such as Quest products, Halo Top ice cream, and things like that, which if you didn't know, net carbs is basically the total amount of carbs in the product minus those things like fiber and sugar alcohols. The reason for this is because fiber doesn't get digested in the body, it gets digested in the bacteria of your large intestine. So these sources don't impact blood sugar as much, and oftentimes we think we don't get any calories from these sources because of it, but that's just not true. You still get probably somewhere around 2 to 3 calories per gram as your body converts these to short chain fatty acids, which can be reabsorbed and used for energy, at least in the case of soluble fiber. So while yes, technically you get less calories from these sources, you still do get calories, and I personally think it's wise just to claim them as a normal carb. So just track your total carbs and don't think about net carbs. Now, to give you an example of how much this can really impact things, I want to look at one of the nutrition labels of a Halo Top product, where if you look at this flavor, it says that it has 60 calories per serving. It has 2 grams of fat, 5 grams of protein, and it also says it has 14 grams of carbs, but with the net carbs taking away the fiber and the sugar alcohols, it claims 6 grams of net carbs. But if you add everything up, it actually comes up to be about 94 calories instead of the 60 it says. And if you take into consideration, a lot of people will eat the entire pint of Halo Top. Now you're talking about getting around 370 total calories, whereas the label itself says 240. And if we go back to the main point of this video is why don't calories and macros match, this could explain some big discrepancies between the two. Now the third reason why there can be discrepancies is what I talked about briefly in the beginning, and that is if you consume alcohol. Alcohol is technically its own macronutrient, coming in at 7 calories per gram. But if you consume alcohol and log that in your tracker, it's gonna take the calories from that, but it's not gonna give you carbs, protein, or fat because it's coming from a different macro. So say for instance you have something like a ramen diet that's gonna have somewhere around 100 calories, you're gonna get those 100 calories on your tracker, but you're not gonna get any macros. So what I personally recommend is if you're tracking alcohol is to take those calories from it and convert it over to carbs or fat or a combination of the two, but do not track them as protein because protein is just too important. So for instance, going back to our 100 calorie drink example, you could take the 100 calories and take it as either 25 grams of carbs or 11 grams of fat, or you could split it up between the two of them. So say for instance, you could take 4 grams of fat, which would be 36 calories, and then the remaining 64 calories would come from carbs, which would be 14 grams. Alright, the fourth reason for discrepancies is just general inaccuracy within the app, because you have to remember that these databases are completely user-driven. So what that means is other people are putting in these entries and you're just assuming they're right. If you're not verifying it, it could be off. And I've even seen items that have the verified check mark, meaning a lot of people have gone in and verified that the information is correct and have it be wrong. So you do have to watch that sometimes, or create your own entries. Restaurant food especially is notorious for being way off with regards to calories and macros. You'll go in and you'll see these entries for like 1,000 calories, and then you look at the macros and it's like 10 grams of fat, 20 grams of carbs, and 30 grams of protein, and it's like, no, that's like not even 300 calories. So if you're going out to eat and the restaurant you're going to has nutrition available online, go in there and verify that just to make sure it's accurate, or if it's not, you can create your own. And if the restaurant doesn't have nutrition, just take something that's similar from a restaurant that does and just roll with it. The biggest problem a lot of people have with restaurant food is they fall into the all or nothing perfectionist mindset trap again, and they think, well, I don't know what's in it, so what's the point? And then they just go nuts for the rest of the day and start again tomorrow after they've consumed thousands of calories more than they were supposed to. Even if it's actually way off, you would never know anyways, so just pick it, be okay with it, understand that it's getting you in the ballpark, and it will keep you progressing in the right direction. Anyway, with all that said, you may be wondering what you should do. Look at macros or calories. And as always, the answer depends. If you're looking for the most accurate way to do things, then you want to look at macros, because there's no rounding involved with macros. So if you know your macros, by default, you know how many calories you're getting, whereas the calorie amount in your app could be significantly different than your macro count. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to just crush macros all the time. It just means that you're tracking macros, and especially if you're someone who's pretty good at math, you can take any overages from one and take it away from the other one. So say, for instance, you're over your fat by 16 grams. Well, we know that's 144 calories. So if you took away 36 grams of carbs, it would still net the same amount of total calories. But of course, this adds another layer of difficulty, and it's not going to be for everyone. If trying to crush macros or trying to do all this math and everything is going to frustrate you and give you to give up, then just look at calories and understand too that your maintenance calorie range is about 100 either way. So if your maintenance calories were 2,000 and you were at 1,900 or 2,100, you could still very well be in that maintenance calories. Your body doesn't have the same energy demands every single day. And what I find is, for most people, as long as you're hitting calories and protein, that's going to be good enough to get where you need to be, unless you're doing some sort of extreme thing like a bodybuilding show or something where you need to be much more diligent. Now here's what you need to do next. Check out this top video about how to create the perfect diet for shredding body fat and get in the best shape of your life. Otherwise, I think you'll enjoy this bottom video instead. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.